Hi everyone, thanks for being here. Today's video, Can't Stop Solitaire. I wish I could take credit for the original concept of this game, but it was actually invented way back in 1980. This is a way to play the classic game if you find yourself, well, by yourself. I'm not going to go through too much of the original gameplay. There are plenty of tutorials out there for how to play Can't Stop as a 2, 3, or 4 player game, but the Solitaire version has some really fun differences, so let's get to it. You're always going to roll all 4 dice, and you always must make a minimum of 1 progression, but if you can make more than 1 progression, you must do that as well. So, the blue chips in this scenario are kind of like get out of jail free cards. Or chips, and you earn them once one of your 3 traveling chips makes it up to the top. So if I'm able to progress 7 all the way up to the top, I'm going to get 1 get out of jail free chip, and you can have up to 3 of these at any given time. If you're already holding 3 and you get another number closed out by progressing it all the way to the top, you get to keep your 3, but you don't get to earn a 4th. Now the other thing that happens, there are really 3 excellent things that happens if you're able to progress 1 all the way up to the top. And that is, 1, you get 10 points by closing out a number. 2, you get to start a new chip. So you always have 3 numbers that you're going for at a time. And then of course, like I said, you get the freebie get out of jail chip. So the game is over when you can't make at least 1 move. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll all 4 dice, and those of you that are familiar with the classic version of the game know you must always put them in a pair. Now, if I was in the middle of my game right now and 6s were already closed, I would have no option but to be going 2 and 10. So I'd place a chip on the 2 and I'd place one on the 10. Once a number is closed out, you're done. Instead, I will take my 2 6s. This is a great move because 6 is fairly simple to get. You can see it's very close to the statistical average of 7 when you put 2 dice together. And so it should be fairly easy for me to get up here. But the other excellent thing is that I still have 2 more chips to play on the board. So I'm hoping for another 6 or a pair of something else. Okay, and so now I have some options here. I can go 4 and 8. I would have to spend my last 2 chips, 1 on 4 and 1 on 8. Or I could go 7 and 5. Now because I already have 1 on 6, I'm going to go 7 and 5 because 4, 6, and 8 being all evens, it's just a strategy decision on my part. So now if I cannot roll a 5, a 6, or a 7 on any combination of 2 dice, so for example, if I have a 4 and a 2 and a 1 and a 1, well, in that scenario, I could take the 4 and the 1 and progress on 5, and then nothing happens with the 3. Or I could take the 4 and the 2 and progress on 6, and nothing would happen to the 1 and 1. If, however, I cannot make a 5, 6, or 7, my short game is over and I try again. Looking for 5, 6s, and 7s. Well, there's a 5 and there's a 7. Or I can go 6 and 6. And since I've already progressed to the second progression on 6, I will take my 2 6s and continue. There's another 6. The other pair makes 8, which does me no good, but because I can make at least 1 progression, the game continues. Okay, here I have a 5 and a 7, so I'm going to go ahead and take a 5 and a 7. And I'm hoping to get you guys up to the top so I can show you what happens next, even though I've already described it. There's a 7 and a 5, right? Getting closer now. I'm on 6s. There, speaking of which, the 2 does me no good, but there's a 6. So those 3 excellent things are going to happen if I can get up here. I'm going to close out 6, which is worth 10 points in my Solitaire version. I'm going to get to bring another chip onto the board, and I'm going to get myself one of those safety chips. So we're really looking for a 6 here, but a 5 or a 7 will do because it keeps me alive. There's a 7, that's the best I can do. And there's my 6, or I could take 5 and 5. This is a big strategy move right here, because if I take the 6, my other 2 dice do nothing, but it will get me to the top. Now, because this is a tutorial and I'm just having a little fun, I'm going to go with 5 and 5, and I'm going to roll the dice, proverbially speaking. 1 5, 1 6, or 1 7. All right, I have a 5 or a 6 or a 7. And because 5 is the least statistically likely number to hit out of the 3 that I'm currently going for, I'm going to take that 5. That's excellent. If the game ends and these other 2 have not made it to the top, no matter where they are, they're only worth 1 point. And you might think, well, why not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 give me 5 points for making my 7 to the 5th position? Well, the answer is this. Even though you only have to go 3 positions on number 2, it's very difficult to do so because there's only one combination of dice that will get you there, 1 and 1, right? So if you make it to the 2nd level on 2 and you make it to the 6th level on 7, would it really be fair to say that this 2 was only worth 2 points when that was difficult to achieve, whereas getting up here was somewhat simple? So anything that scores is 10. Anything that's on the board but has not scored is 1, which means the best score you can have is 110 in this game. So my 5 is now closed, but I get to bring another one onto the board, and I get a get out of jail free chip. So we continue. And now I have some decisions to make. I can go 7 and 9, or I can take my 6, close it out, bring another chip down, get another safety chip, and then I would also have to go on 10. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my 6, bring another chip down, take another safety chip, and then I'm going to put one of these 2 on 10. So at this point, I'm going for 7 and 10, and an undisclosed as of yet number. Let's do 1 or 2 more rolls. I have a 10 and a 7. That could not have worked out more perfectly. I have a 10 and a 9, so if I want to take my 10, I must start my last chip on 9. The other thing I could do is I could take a 7, and I could go for 12. Now, going for 12 is something that you don't want to wait too long for, because if you save it for the very end of the game, that's where it gets tricky. However, to take 1 7 here, which would mean I'm not done with 7s yet, and then have 10 and 12 on the board, I like to have some balance on the other side too. What if you roll all 2s, right? So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to take either a 10, I'm going to take a 10 and then add the 9, okay? So here we go, really looking for some 10s or 7s now. And I have a 9, which keeps me going. And I have a 7 or a 10, and because it's a lot more challenging to get the 10 than it is to get the 7, I will take my 10. And 7 and 7 puts me up to the top. I get my last safety chip, and 1 more comes in play. If the game were to end right now, I would have 10, 20, 30, 31, 32 points. All right, so you continue as long as you can. The highest possible score is 110 because you have 11 categories. 11 times 10 is 110. Highest score I have achieved is 92, which is pretty good. I was 1 3 and 1 11 away from winning, and I had all of my safety chips, but I couldn't make it happen. Well, I know it might seem a little tedious to have to set up your own game board. Feel free to use paper and pencil or whatever works best for you. Or you can really splurge and buy this game in print. It went out of print a while back, but you can find it for a pretty penny. Thanks for joining me. Do all the things all the other YouTubers ask you to do when it comes to their channel. And you guys, take care.